Tonight, the Imperial Academy has joined up with Coruscant University to bring you a special exhibit on Imperial and historical arms and armor. We get a sneak peek behind the blast doors.
And later, we pay tribute to an important member of the lightsaber community who is no longer with us. All that, and the Gundark Watch, at 11.
Gotta watch out for those Gundarks.
In the dark.
With
guns.
Welcome, citizens of the galaxy, to another episode of Hoth Topics, a podcast about Star Wars. I am a weapons smuggler for the Rebel Alliance, Ian, and joining me is the Imperial Quartermaster, John.
So Ian.
Yo.
What are we doing today?
So, I thought we could talk a little bit about some of the news, since we are post D23. We're not going to go super deep into it, because a million other people have. Mm-hmm. Just kind of get yours and mine opinion, mine and yours opinion, words and how they work on some of the stuff that comes out, maybe something that's interesting, and then kind of delve into a topic that I think we both have a pretty big interest in, that being the weapons of Star Wars. That is a thing that we're going to talk about today. First off, the news, though. So we had a couple things come out of D23, including a new Mandalorian trailer.
Woot.
New footage from The Rise of Skywalker, and some more info on a couple of the other Disney Star Wars projects. One that I know is going to be very controversial, but I'm very excited for, and that being Ewan McGregor.
The Jungle Cruise Ride movie.
Oh, you mean action movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, releasing anytime this summer, or next summer, or until he's like 60?
Yeah, I am actually upset that no one's talking about it. Everyone wants to talk about Star Wars. Whatever. Jungle Cruise Ride, number 2 after Star Wars.
If it's anything like the
Jumanji?
Jumanji sequel,
it's just going to be Jumanji.
It's going to be a surprise hit, because honestly, I really enjoyed the Jumanji sequel, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I know it's going to be dumb, but yeah. I'm looking.
But I guess that's all we really wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
today, right?
I know. So see you guys later. Week. Yeah, but Ewan McGregor has confirmed that he is returning as Obi-Wan Kenobi for a series. This is a step in the right direction. We've kind of talked in the past how an Obi-Wan movie might not be the best way to go. Maybe doing an Obi-Wan miniseries would be the way to do that. I think you and I kind of came to the same conclusion on that. If you're going to do anything Obi-Wan, kind of do it that way. I am a huge Obi-Wan Kenobi fanboy. He is my number one Star Wars character of all time. So, actually, the thing that I really enjoyed was I was in a class or something the morning of the D23 footage coming out, and John, you sent me 2 clips. One was like the live from the Rise of Skywalker stuff, and the other was cell phone footage. And I was looking at this and going, what? And you said the cell phone video is more important for you.
Oh, yeah. The first thing I sent you was the Mando trailer.
Oh, yeah, Mando trailer. That's right. And you're like, you're going to be more interested in the crappy cell phone footage. I'm like, what is this? Obi-Wan confirmed! Oh, my God!
From the Kenobi himself.
I'm very excited about that. Don't ask me what it's going to be about, because they can go a bunch of different ways on it, and which could be good and could be bad. But we'll see. I'm just happy I get more Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. And, one thing I was thinking about that is it could be kind of interesting with kind of some of the de-aging that they've done recently. We could potentially get some flashbacks to young Obi and Qui-Gon, which would be interesting. Mando trailer also came out. John, any thoughts on that? Actually, before I do that, do you have any thoughts on the Obi-Wan thing? I don't think you do, but...
I haven't seen a lot of people talk, because there's 2 things... and one actually goes into the Mandalorian a little bit, so maybe that will be our cleverly disguised segue that I call out.
Yep.
But on the most recent episode of the Star Wars show, as per this recording, I believe Carboni mentioned that the Obi-Wan project takes place 8 years after the prequels. Mm-hmm. So that's 20 years before A New Hope.
Basically, in an area where we could conceivably still see Ewan McGregor as...
Solo was 10 years? According to this random link that I just clicked on. 10 to 13 years before A New Hope. So, Ian, what kind of stories do you think that sets him up for?
Well, I can see it being a couple of things. So, if it takes place that long after I'm sorry, you said after A New Hope, you mean after Revenge, right?
8 years after the prequels.
Yeah.
Is when it starts. And then what's saying is Obi-Wan, or the Solo takes place 10 years
before,
you're right. So there's a little bit of
crossover?
Overlap? There could be.
Overlap.
If it's 13 years, if it's the maximum range of that random website, then there's a year of overlap. I think if I did my math right. Which I'm bad at.
Yeah.
Ian's the math smart one.
No, I'm not.
He goes to school for math.
No, I go to school and I'm forced to do math. There's a difference. I can see it being a couple things. So Luke is going to be... He's going to be a kid, right? He's going to be 8 or 9. Because he's 17 or 18.
Right.
During A New Hope. So I can see this setting up a couple things. There is a story that they can kind of borrow from. It's a Legends book called Obi-Wan, kind of with him dealing with what's going down on what Tatooine is going through and trying to help people versus trying to hide who he is.
Mm-hmm.
There could be maybe a threat to Luke that he has to take care of. We've seen some of that happen in the comics. In the main run of the current canon Star Wars comics, there are a couple of excerpts from Obi-Wan's journal, and they just kind of goes over some of the stuff that he did. I'm particularly fond of someone who knows that he's alive, trying to get him to help them with something, and kind of seeing how he deals with his duty of protecting Luke versus the call of his old Jedi life, and kind of the dangers to himself. So I think it's going to be much more of a character study than kind of the whish bang kapow thing that we're used to, and I'm fine with that, because if you're going to do that with anybody in Star Wars, Obi-Wan is a great character to do it for, since he's so storied.
I get it
already. So that's just my 2 cents on it. So we'll see how it goes.
What I was looking up earlier is also when he showed up in Star Wars Rebels with Maul, because I've been hearing a lot of people saying like, oh, maybe this will tie into what we learned in Solo with Maul running Crimson Dawn.
That could be interesting.
But to me, it seemed like Obi-Wan wasn't aware of Maul until he showed up in Rebels.
I agree with that.
And I feel like it would be kind of weird to have him fight him and more than likely defeat him, because it's an Obi-Wan story, and there'd just be this running gag of Obi-Wan not being able to kill him.
Yeah, and the time period doesn't really match up either.
Because if he is going to hang out on Tatooine and watch Luke until he no longer is able to...
Until he's Alec Guinness.
There's not going to be much... there is opportunity for him to leave the planet for a little bit.
Sure.
But he wouldn't go on a galaxy-wide crusade to find Maul or fight Maul or anything that would pull him away from what is now his main duty.
Right.
So, my concern has always been with an Obi-Wan series is that there's not much story to tell in the sense of a ongoing... I feel like it would need to be more... Each episode would need to be a more contained adventure. Like, if they did... He's going to be starting at point A and then gets to point B by the end of the series. I feel like that continuity would cause
It's a little slow.
Yeah, it would either be slow... Or they'd be slow because there isn't much to tell. Other than, oh, he's going to go help this person, do this, or go help this person. But it'd be the same thing. It'd be like the A-Team, but Star Wars. Because each week they just helped a different person do something.
Right.
And they were outlaws or wanted by the government. I don't remember. But the thing that I'd be interested to see that I highly doubt they would do because it would be complicated would to take multiple different story arcs from Obi-Wan's past. Like, we know that he had something with Satine of Mandalore that's just kind of alluded to in the Clone Wars, but we never really dive much in that series about what that was.
Right.
So it'd be kind of interesting to see that also, because it'd be cool to see more live-action Mandalorians.
Yeah,
maybe.
I agree.
Though that weird Mandalorian pacifist culture would be kind of strange. But, and as you mentioned earlier with the facial youngening, I believe that's the technical term. Yeah,
yes.
Youngening.
Youngening?
Yes.
Youngening sounds like a hut word.
But so we've seen that, so we know that they could do something that takes place in that period And it wouldn't be too unfeasible to see them being able to do that with the technology.
Sure. Get
and I kind of, like as before mentioned, I'm nervous that if it's a multi-season series, there's not enough story to tell that would be compelling week to week.
Right.
Like I don't want to see Firefly where we're just hanging out on the Mutter's planet all week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do.
Yes, you do.
I do. I want more Firefly. Make Firefly 2 happen.
Well, have you seen the Mandalorian ship?
I know, basically, yeah. A friend of the show, Tim, pointed that out. He was like, "Oh, thanks for bringing back Serenity."
Yeah, yeah. Well, I see Obi-Wan as a miniseries.
Yeah, and that's the thing is if the thing that I want to see would be short stories, a few episode arcs, and then move on to another story. But I think you're right that if they keep it as a limited series, I think it would be far more effective because he is a fan-loved character. And they run the risk of doing harm to that character, or the character that we know, by prolonging and bringing that out. Because as Americans, we don't know how to end shows.
Right. No, I agree. I was talking to our friend Tia about that, actually. I think I said, 4 to 9 seasons, 4 to 8 seasons is kind of your max. If you go 9 or more, you're kind of pushing... You're either going to run out of ideas or you're going to start recycling things.
I'm down with 2 to 3 seasons.
Yeah,
because that way, if you go in knowing you're going to have this limited amount of time to tell a story, you're going to conclude that story instead of just leave the season ending on a cliffhanger, hoping you get picked up. I wish Americans would be more like us Californians.
Sure, and we're also going to get some Western action. It looks like with the Mandalorian. And speaking of The Mandalorian, I really don't have anything to say about it other than it looks cool. It's coming out in like a month, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm stoked. I mean, it looks fun. It looks like that real Star Wars Western sort of thing.
It does kind of look like Firefly.
Yeah, it
and
does.
I am fine with that.
Right.
Because I miss Firefly.
We've always kind of had these stories where it's either the heroes or the villains interacting with the criminal underworld. Mm. We haven't really had a story except for maybe Solo where it's just about the criminal underworld and how they operate. But that'll be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. Yeah,
I'm excited.
I'm excited for it too. Like I don't want to go too much deeper into it just because it is coming out so soon. When it does come out, I'm sure we're going to watch it and have more to talk about it. So just moving on from that.
I don't think there was anything else.
No, not in terms of news. Like there was
one thing.
Yeah. I think I know exactly what you're going to talk about. No, I'm talking
about I think it's from The Mandalorian. Yes.
Oh, okay.
There's a quick shot of a dude riding what appears to be a T-Rex variant of a Dubek.
Okay.
It's a big lizard creature, really small front hands. It's a beast of burden, little dude riding out. That I thought was Maskanata.
Yeah.
It's not Maskanata, but the little image that I saw of a model of it made me think that. But
I think those things are called Gwars.
Something like that. Yes. But you know where they showed up first? Ian, you know where they showed up?
Huh.
The Ewok movies.
Huh.
Booyah. Also some Twi'leks rode them in the Clone Wars or Rebels. I don't remember. One of the cartoons they were there too.
Yeah, and they're mounts that you can get in the Old Republic. I had a couple.
It just makes me happy that
they're not called Gwars. I think they begin with G though.
No, Gwar is a rock group.
Yeah, I know.
They wear costumes, right? But I do know their basis is Beefcake the Mighty, and that's a great name. Lead singer's name is Odorous something. He's keeper of the Cuttlefish of Cthulhu.
Oh, that's so cool. I think that's it for news and stuff.
Definitely no other trailers came out.
Oh, right. Crap.
Not at all. Let's move on.
Rise of Skywalker. We had new footage. Again, I'm excited for it. I will admit there was one thing that happened where John sent me the Rey with the double-bladed red lightsaber thing, and my first instinct was just to go, ugh. But then, after 2 seconds of thought, I'm just like, well, this is obviously not what it seems, or else I wouldn't put it in the trailer, sort of thing. And even if it was, that's no reason to get, grumpy about anything. Like, we're just trying to, be excited for this film. And honestly, I actually haven't gone back and watched any of that footage a second time. I watched it once. I absorbed it. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. like I said, I'm trying to do a lot less speculation for Rise of Skywalker than I did with The Last Jedi. I'm trying to preserve that first viewing experience for myself more than I did with the other films, because I know this might be the last Star Wars film we get on screen for a while on the big screen. So I'm really trying to like preserve that. But I mean, everything I saw, it looks cool. The Carrie Fisher footage looks cool. She looks like Carrie Fisher. She doesn't look like I know they did like a bunch of digital replacements for costuming and the environment behind her, but multi-million dollars of
mouse money
will get you that.
Well, I mean, a lot of it's going to be footage from Force Awakens they didn't use.
Yeah, but other than that, like, everything looks cool and good and fine, and I'm excited to see it. Lots of Star Destroyers. How many Star Destroyers? All of the Star Destroyers. Like, the only thing they could do that would cause me to really not enjoy what they're going to do is to mess with the time travel stuff, and I've ranted about that time and time again. I'm not going to expose anybody else to it, but that's...
What if, Ian, we keep hearing that, like, the new Disney movies, at least I do, that the new Disney movies try to pull things off and they don't, but then the next Marvel movie pulls off the exact same thing, but better. Have you ever seen this discussion?
I kind of see where you're going with this.
So the last Avengers movie was very focused on time travel. It wasn't time travel, but then it was time travel, and then they abandoned it at the end. So, what if they do time travel better than Endgame?
No. Moving on. So yeah, I think that do you have anything to say about the Rise of Skywalker stuff?
As mentioned a billion times, and I'll mention a billion times, the sequel trilogy isn't my favorite part of the trilogy, but that doesn't mean I hate it. It's just that I grew up with the original trilogy, and I don't compare them to each other. It's just that I'm more invested in that they changed the names of the eras. Age of Rebellion,
Civil War era.
They're all AOR now. They're Age of Republic, Age of Rebellion, and Age of Resistance are the official type names for the saga eras. Saying that, this movie looks like it's a Star Wars. It looks like it's, from what they've released, a bright, fun adventure with swords, guns, lots of people screaming, big murdery type vehicles and such that will probably end satisfactionally. The trailer made it to me feel like they're kind of going back to or trying to push it more as a pulp adventure type thing, that like the original, or at least A New Hope was kind of trying to be like Flash Gordon sort of.
Sure.
So I'm interested in that. The other thing I was interested in the trailer is when they did the Dark Rey reveal with her double-bladed lightsaber. When I found out about the saber, I was monitoring somebody's live tweets, since they couldn't bring cameras in, or they couldn't take pictures. So I heard Rey in dark robes with a double-bladed lightsaber, which made me happy because after Force Awakens came out, I made that costume for my friend with Darth Maul's saber on a PVC pipe that the emitters were on the ends of the pipe, and you hit a button and you can collapse the emitters in on each other, revealing the lightsaber on. So instead of the lightsaber coming out, you basically pull the hilt across the lightsaber to reveal it.
Right.
So I was like, oh, who nailed it? Who called it? And then I started seeing everybody on Twitter who had done that. Also, like, look who called it first. I'm like, oh, y'all suck. Yeah. But then I saw the trailer, and it was the flip-out style that the Temple Guard in Rebels was using. Which I see people saying, like, what's the point of that? I think it's just for storage, because holding a double-sided blade on your leg, if you're a short person, isn't a super useful thing.
And that's like a 2-foot-long, stick that you have to carry around in your belt. So,
but there's a lot of stuff we could talk about that every podcast you've listened to, the week after or the day after that came out.
Yeah, we'll save our in-depth analysis for when the actual stuff comes out. So, And we should throw up that Dark Rey cosplay.
I was going to throw it up on Twitter, but I don't talk to Catherine as much as I used to, and so I didn't want to throw it up there without her permission.
Well, toss it up on our site. So
it's already on the site, I believe.
I didn't see it in a propaganda, but maybe it's like in one of the articles.
I think it's in one of the articles.
Okay, so yeah, you can search around for that.
Oh, it's on my personal blog, which is madmodcontraptions.blogspot.com, which hasn't been updated in
a long time.
3 or 4 years.
A long time.
Because we started this podcast.
Well, John, I think that's enough for news. Let's talk things that go boom and pew and zoom. So let's talk Star Wars weapons. Like, Star Wars weapons are one of like the key signifiers of Star Wars. You know, you see a blaster from Star Wars, you see a lightsaber, and you kind of automatically know, oh, that is from Star Wars. Just the specific designs that they have, the look about them, and they're very iconic things. I think what we should do is kind of talk about some of our favorite guns, some of our favorite designs for the blasters. I know you know a decent amount about...
I'll go over that later, because I just have a clever way to tie that into an article, the last article I posted on the website.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, so we'll go over that. But, so what we have a bucket of E11s around here somewhere.
It's in my closet.
Yeah.
It's not a joke. It's a Rogue One popcorn tin that has 6 E11s in it at the moment.
What are some of your favorite blasters, and why?
I like all the blasters. I know it's kind of like a cheap catch-all, but...
It is.
It's because of the ingenuity of the original trilogy's prop department kind of created what this universe's weapons were going to be by taking real-world weapons and slapping random bits of plastic onto them to create something that is uniquely Star Wars, but yet still familiar, which is what I think helps bring a lot of the Star Wars films to people, to those familiar shapes,
right,
being slightly different, helps us immerse ourselves in the world. So it's something that you could see going to, well, basically what they did, and going to a store, buying something that exists, and making it slightly different. As a favorite blaster, that's like really hard for me to choose, because some of them are like really, like the DLT-19, which is what the Sand Troopers carry. They really didn't do much to modify that to make it Star Wars-y. It's just a German machine gun. And then there's other ones like the E11, which is a British Sterling submachine gun from the 50s.
Right.
That thing got a lot more stuff glued onto it to make it similar to, like, familiar but completely different. That's become one of the things that I do now when I watch these movies, is look at the guns and see if I can figure out what they were based on.
And it's something that I really appreciate when you do it, because, like you said, it really makes the universe feel real.
Mm-hmm.
And because like, you can tell me what gun it's made from, and I can look at that gun and it also helps my immersion into the world, because it's like, oh, I can totally see this as a thing that exists, or would exist.
At Comic-Con, I had a fun discussion with one of the guys manning the Lucasfilm booth, where they had all the armor on display, and they had just put out the new Sith Trooper. And I went up to him and I was like, hey, like, I'm kind of like a prop guy, like I like the weapons in Star Wars. Do you know what that gun's based on? The Sith Trooper's gun. And he pulls out his phone and he's like showing me all these pictures he took when they were unwrapping it from the shipping.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, I'm not sure what the body is, but it's definitely a Glock.
Huh.
And then he shows me pictures, and it's definitely a Glock handle, which is similar to the First Order pistol.
Uh-huh.
Is a Glock in a body a housing that's, you turn your Glock into a carbine length rifle.
Right.
They just took the buttstock part off.
Okay.
And that's kind of what this kit looks like. Just a drop-on carbine kit. Though knowing that the technology they have now, they probably got the Glock as the base, and then 3D designed something and 3D printed something they could drop in.
One thing that I really enjoy about something that they did in the prequels for weapons is that they really started to bring in this idea of galactic weapon standard and planet or culture-based weapons being different. Like, if we look at Naboo and, like, the kind of stuff that the Naboo Guard have, you know, it's a lot sleeker, it's a lot shinier, it matches the ships that they have, it matches sort of the architecture, and you kind of explore that further down into wherever you end up going. Like in the Clone Wars a lot, there are you see different societies and they have different looking weapons or stuff like that, and that it gives more life to the world. Personally, my favorite Star Wars gun is the DC-15 rifle. It's the big long rifles the clones use. I don't know why. I just really like the way that thing looks. And is that also based on a Sterling?
No.
No?
The guns that the clones had were just simplified versions of what the Empire used for the most part. Mm-hmm. But because none of those props were like really made,
right?
I think they had more free reign to kind of like do their own thing. Like it has similar,
like the
shapes are similar.
The butt stock and sort of like the pistol grip and the trigger guard, like that kind of looks like that.
I don't know if it's actually it's in the cupboard, but the DLT-19 I made out of balsa wood. Yeah, balsa wood pipe. Because I don't have the tools to round out the butt stock like it should be on a real MG34, I believe.
Sure.
It's all blocky and actually looks like the DC-15 style. So I think they just simplified the shapes, because the standard blaster that they use, it does look like an E11.
Right.
Just it doesn't have the fins on the barrel. It doesn't have. Trying to remember back what it looks like. The iron sights are more simplified. I think they're just 2 wires.
Doesn't have a giant flashlight stuck to the bottom of it for no reason.
The DC-15 does.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, gotcha. I was like, well, E11s and Rogue One had flashlights.
So I really like that, and the other thing too that I really like is I like the Han/Luke DL-44 type pistols. I really like that. I like those a lot. They're just fun looking. The scopes are useless.
Well, and that's another one of the things they did, where it's just like they didn't really bother to change all that much off of a German C96 Mauser pistol. They just glued some stuff to the side, glued some stuff to the front of the magazine well, and then got I believe it was a flash hider from an anti-aircraft gun and bolted it to the front. Yeah, and that was it.
Yeah. And it's so easy to really customize these Star Wars sort of guns and props. And that's the thing about it. These they're fun. They look fun and they look real. And I think those two things are what really makes some of them iconic. Like, you don't need to know that Han's blaster is called a DL-44. But if I say Han's blaster, any Star Wars fan knows what that looks like, you know? Yeah. If I say the Stormtroopers' guns, anybody knows what those look like.
Well, and I think you have a good point there with they look real. Mm-hmm. They look like they can do damage, where a lot of the sci-fi coming out at that time, you'd have laser guns that were sparkly and like they looked like they were toys. These didn't look like toys. They looked like heavy pieces of metal shooting out plasma that burns your face off.
Yeah, and
like directly behind you is a joke gun I made. I took a bunch of Easter eggs and glued them together, and I made a gun that looks like it's the only way to describe it is a 1950s ray gun. Yeah. It's super bubbly. The ray gun from Fallout 4.
Oh, or
Fallout in general.
Yeah.
I made something like that for fun.
Yeah,
and like you look at it,
the future 50s sort of.
It looks like a toy. And it doesn't look like it would hurt you, but Han's gun looks like it will hurt you.
Yeah, that thing's weighty. And I don't know if anybody, any of our listeners have ever played, like any Star Wars game where you get to shoot a blaster, but like there's some that they feel weighty even though in those games. Like if I play Battlefront 2, just watching the recoil and the sound design of the guns, like when a blast point hits something, it doesn't disappear into light, like it leaves an impact mark. There's smoke. Yeah. The opening battle of A New Hope, where the Stormtroopers and the Rebels are facing off, and the sparks and the smoke, the way the actors get hit and they're flying backwards at the impact, that scene by itself really helps to establish that this is a war These are weapons of war. They are made to harm people. Mm-hmm. They are made to have that impact and that grit. And that's, I think that scene alone really helps set up how we think about weapons in Star Wars, especially blasters. Because I could say a laser gun, but the minute I say blaster, you're thinking of Star Wars. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't describe any other gun as a blaster for any other sci-fi thing, just because of how I associate blasters with Star Wars. I would say plasma gun or laser gun or whatever. There's a lot going for the production design behind Star Wars guns that just really make them iconic and make them a big part of the universe. Well, what's one of your favorite...
Well, real quick, going back real quick. You're talking about how the blasters, they feel dangerous.
Right.
One of the things that I think really helps with that in Star Wars is the sound design of them.
Oh, absolutely.
A DL-44 on paper in the stories and stuff is described as a heavy blaster, and in the movies when Han shoots that thing off, you feel like it's a heavy blaster. You feel that it is a high caliber weapon.
Right.
When Padme is pulling out those sleek pistols she has on Naboo and just blasting battle droids back and forth, it doesn't have the same sound effect as the DL-44, as the E-11, and I believe Ben Burtt did an outstanding job with designing those sounds to not only be sci-fi soundy, but also giving you that audio cue of how powerful one of these weapons could be.
Absolutely.
So when you see Han shoot a stormtrooper and you see how far they fly back, he's shooting a dangerous gun.
Yeah. So what's one of your favorite blaster firefights in Star Wars?
The D-Day scene of Rogue One. We in the movies, because the focus is in the not Rogue One or Solo really,
right?
Because of we need to focus on these specific main characters and their story. We never really see a big firefight. Mm-hmm. I say that and now I'm thinking of what about the droids attacking the Naboo? Yeah, I know that I say that I'm thinking of all these battles, but
right.
The big battles in the Clone Wars era movies, were for the most part all CG, and the problem with CG is it doesn't hold the same weight as something realistic, and I think at least for me I can see that. But Rogue One, we saw a full-on force-on-force firefight, which I thought was really cool and not something we've really seen in the live action, I should say. That's why I'm kind of excited for The Mandalorian, because I feel like we're going to see more blaster firefights.
Oh, did the giant pile of stormtrooper helmets stacked up on the ground on spikes give you that idea?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's what you do when you defeat a stormtrooper. You hit their head and put their head on a spike.
Learn that
from Ewoks.
I think some of the best firefights happen in the Clone Wars because that is so focused on military Republic clones, and also they get a lot more chance to play around with tactics. In the live action movies, you get a couple action scenes a piece, and no matter how long your movie is, you need to get the point across within your timeline, right? Within your time frame. And when you're a series, especially when you have multi-episode arcs, like the Umbara arc, like the Return to Geonosis arc, there are these opportunities for these clones who are soldiers to use more interesting tactics, have interesting tactics used on them. So yeah, that's the blasters. But if you have guns, you also need to have something to back yourself up when you don't have a gun.
More guns.
And those would be kind of the melee weapons. And one of the things that I find interesting about non-lightsaber melee weapons in Star Wars is how that they vary a lot more than the blasters do. in terms of what they are and how they're used and by who they're used. And kind of what I mean by that is if we look at Jabba's palette, we got the Gamorrean guards, right? And the Gamorrean guards have those big axes. I don't know if they're canonically vibro axes or not. Kind of makes sense if they are. Axes. But, just these big, massive, just axes. They fit, the sort of thing. But, why, though? Everybody in there has a gun. And then you look at police forces I've seen in, some of the comics that have stun batons. Mm-hmm. And then you've got people who are just hitting people with their guns. And then you've also got, the Ewoks, they're just using spears and rocks and all that stuff. But I don't really think melee weapons as a concept in Star Wars really had anything in it, other than the lightsabers, of course, until we got Knights of the Old Republic, the video game. Because out of a necessity for a game balance thing, they had to give them something that say, okay, we want you to be able to fight Jedi and Sith, but we want you to be able to do it without having to be a Jedi or a Sith sort of thing. So they introduced the idea of vibro weapons. So what do you think about kind of the non-saber melee weapons in Star Wars? Is there anything that stands out to you? I know it's a weird sort of sub-genre.
For me, they don't really stand out as much.
Sure.
Because they kind of are just your run-of-the-mill, to me at least, they're run-of-the-mill sci-fi melee weapon. Take an axe and put an electric edge on it. Take a spear and make the tip vibrate so it can cut through steel quicker.
Sure.
But we never really see anybody using them. Or the only person really that gets any good melee stuff in is Chirrut Imwe.
Yeah, with his
in the
stick.
movies at least. Yeah. And he does pretty good. Rey walked around beating people with a stick for a while.
Yep. I like Rey's staff a lot, actually. Mm-hmm. But I like Rey a lot.
I don't. I know that they're there. I know that for the most part, it's the underworld that's going to use them. That's pretty standard for really any sci-fi sort of thing.
The one that stands out to me the most are the Imperial Guard force pike things.
Yeah, sure. Basically,
but they're
taser guns on poles,
right? But they're an interesting design, and I like them. And then we've also seen in some of the comics that those guards will armor up and go in with vibro swords and stuff. So that's kind of interesting.
The melee weapons just don't get a lot of love if they're not a lightsaber in Star Wars.
Which brings us to kind of our final category for weapons today. If you're listening to this, you know what a lightsaber is. Hopefully, if you don't, come find me. I'll educate you. One thing people might not realize is that there are different types of lightsabers than just what we see on the film. But the thing I think I like most about lightsabers is how the appearance of them can tell you about the person who wields them. It had the same sort of thought process as the blasters, right? Just a bunch of stuff that they threw together with other parts, and it gives it that iconic Star Wars, this is real, this is a thing, sort of look, makes it believable. But as the lore of lightsabers grew, because it was a very popular thing, each one got more and more sort of personalized, and with more personalization came ideas about what a lightsaber is, what it does, who uses one, what do they look like when they're used. They just looking at some, they have stories to them, If you look at Darth Sidious's saber, there's a whole thing about how the entire reason the Emperor got good at lightsaber combat was just to give a middle finger to the Jedi. And so he designed his lightsabers to have electrum in them, which is a holy thing or a sign of mastery for Jedi, to have that metal in your saber. There is these dark and spiky things that Sith sometimes use. The claw on Darth Tyrannus / Count Dooku's thing gives it its own unique appearance. So that's one of the things I like most about lightsabers in terms of their design, is each one can have a unique design and a unique look that helps tell a story of a character, but at the same time is totally recognizable as a lightsaber.
What's interesting about the lightsaber is just in general as a sci-fi trope almost of how what's the next evolution of swords? Put a laser on it.
Right.
And there are so many other franchises that have laser swords.
Right.
But when you see a laser sword, you don't immediately think of anything other than Star Wars. Unless you've been living in a hole.
I think it comes down to the same thing you were talking about before with the combination of the aesthetics, the real look of these things, and the sound design. I think that's what makes them.
I mean, how many times have you been in your house swinging a stick around and making noises?
When we first started doing sabers, none of my sabers have sound in them right now. I will occasionally make the noise without thinking. I'll just be sitting there just going like, you caught me once.
Yeah,
you were just like,
times.
Are you making the noise? I'm like, crap, am I? That's sort of the thing with lightsabers. Some people, see a design and they don't like it, and some people see a design and they love it. And I think the reason why there's like such a hotly debated thing about lightsabers whenever a new like thing comes out, whether it's super cool or super terrible, is because it's such an iconic weapon that, with the lore of a lightsaber is kind of taken on a life of its own. People take it very seriously. So do you have a favorite lightsaber type?
My favorite saber type, and something I want to figure out how to make for our saber group, even though it would be super detrimental to any combating that I do, is I'm a big fan of the proto saber.
Okay.
Which is I don't know if it's still canon, the ancient Jedi's first variants of the lightsaber, which is the lightsaber you know and love, and it has a hose coming out the bottom connected to a power pack on a belt. Yeah. I've been trying to figure out how to make a quick disconnect for if I'm fighting with one, it would rip the pipe out and then without harming either the electronics, and then also turn off my lightsaber, which would be really cool. Super not useful in actual saber sparring uses, because I'm just adding something to make me lose faster.
Right.
But I like the ingenuity of that.
Yeah. The proto saber came about during the Infinite Empire Wars, I believe, with the Jocasta. They had essentially the proto sabers. Jedi were like, let's use these, and made their own, and they evolved. Yeah, so that's kind of cool.
Do you have a lightsaber design that you like the least?
That I like the least? That's a better question for me, honestly. That I like the least? I could do some of the Sith sabers that have these big claws coming out around them. I'm not a huge fan of them. There's one, I think, I don't remember who has it. I think it's an Old Republic type blade, but it basically just has two hatchet-sized butcher blades on either side where the emitter comes out. They're 3 or 4 inches tall, and they're an inch and a half out. The thing looks like a mace, like a regular mace without the saber being turned on, and it goes a little far into the I have spikes on my thing and that makes me evil. That's not subtle storytelling. So anything with those big, long, ridiculous sort of spike, it could be done right. I really like Dooku's saber, and it has that claw that comes out on the end of it, but it's elegant, Yeah,
there's one design that popped up I think last year that I very much dislike, and I believe they released them for the Old Republic, I want to say.
Okay.
I think they were trying to play on more of the crossguard style of saber.
Yeah, I know.
Where they needed a place to vent extra energy.
Right.
So they released sabers that had the crossguard sized blades coming out the bottom of the saber.
That is stupid.
That you're just asking to stab yourself in the leg.
It's not.
I understood the design philosophy is how could we redirect this energy in a different way for a new saber, but maybe not that way.
Yeah, maybe not that way.
I don't know. I'm not no Jedi's.
Yeah.
I like Ezra's gun saber because I want to put a gun on my saber.
The gun saber I didn't like at first, and then the more I saw it being used, I came around to it.
Well, I think you have to put in the context.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
If Ahsoka Tano came out with a blaster on her saber. Who in the Jedi Order let this happen?
Yeah.
Ezra Bridger is not part of the Jedi Order.
Right.
He's being taught by a Padawan.
Right.
Who hasn't been part of the Order in 20 years.
Right.
And this kid only knows how to be a street rat and riffraff. I think in Ezra's context, that blaster makes sense. And I just realized I have to retract my favorite saber. It's not a proto saber. It is a saber that it is a weapon held within the Jedi archives that you place lightsabers into, and then you shoot lightsaber energy out of. And I'm a big fan of taking lightsabers and turning them into weapons that shoot things. I don't think there's precedence in that in Star Wars, is using kyber crystals as a way to generate energy to destroy things. Right? Yeah, that gun that Jocasta knew found in the Temple of Archives that's a gun powered by lightsabers.
Who would make it? Why?
I love that.
It's so, like...
In our saber group, we don't really do a lot of exotics training, like two-handed, two-weapon. But I would love to go to a tournament that had exotics and just pull out a saber gun.
Like, the thing about that sort of bothers me, it's not because there's a lightsaber that it's a gun that shoots lightsabers. The thing that bothers me is that you shoot it like a couple times and then it burns out the lightsaber, and lightsabers are supposed to be these, like, you know, incredibly hard to create, like, rare things.
Well,
and it's just like, who would design this weapon?
That's probably why it was in the archives, not widely adopted by the Order.
Yeah.
Is that they couldn't figure out a way to harness the kyber crystal without it being an explosive.
Yeah.
The Empire figured it out.
Yeah, they did.
Then the First Order did.
Yep.
And then maybe the Emperor again.
Possibly.
Giant Hurtball 4, here we come.
Giant Hurtball 4. Let's do it.
I mean, we know there's going to be a Death Star.
I mean, there is a giant Hurtball. It's just a question of which one it is. It's probably 2.
It's probably 2.
Yeah. It's
Fully
a completely different one. It's just like, how many of these do you have stashed away?
Oh, can we please have whatever Palpatine is in this movie, even if he's just like a ghost possessing somebody, go something to the effect of your friends are going to find out that this fully operational ruin or something, and just like the ruin of just shooting lasers into space aimlessly. They blew up the core, not the guns. Stupid.
Well, I think that's anything else to add on the lightsabers before we close up today?
Lightsaber guns number 1.
No, not at all.
Most efficient way to lightsaber.
I'm a big fan of the Jedi Temple Guard lightsabers. I just like Temple Guards in general. I also like double-bladeds. They're pretty fun. Revan's hilt is one of my favorite hilts. But I did want to bring up one other hilt that meant something very special to a friend of ours. Our friend Steve really, really enjoyed Obi-Wan's lightsaber hilt from the prequels. And we lost Steve a couple weeks ago. He is one with the Force now. He was a founder of San Diego Sabers, and without him we would not have figured out that group existed, let alone how awesome they were.
Yeah, he was one of our first guests back on episode 26 when we brought him in to talk about San Diego Sabers.
Yeah, and he was great on that. He's probably still annoyed that we're still using snowballs.
Oh, 100%.
Even to this point.
He's upset with us right now.
Absolutely. He's gonna force ghost in and just give us a list of things we can't afford, and that's the way he would help us. But you know, he was really an amazing guy, and he touched a lot of people's lives through his love of Star Wars, and not just through San Diego Sabers, but through many other things. So if you are listening to us here on a podcast, you may have heard his voice on our podcast or on as a guest on many others.
Or on his own, the
San Diego Sabers radio podcast. Even though Steve's no longer with us, his advice is still with us. Everything he's done for the community is still here, and he's going to be sorely missed. So we would like to dedicate this episode to Steve Kirk. May the Force be with you. And I think that's going to do it for this episode of Hoth Topics. Any last-minute things to add, John?
To go back to guns real quick, at the end of July, I posted up an article on our website, my newest Imperial propaganda. Oh, I get it. It's prop. I'm clever. And it basically is talking about kind of what we talked about earlier a little bit, but going more in depth in what blasters in Star Wars and the guns that they were based off of, and also tying that into an idea I had of starting a Star Wars costuming airsoft group, because a lot of these weapons are available as airsoft replicas that would just need a little bit of modification, using toys of the Star Wars guns, or going on Etsy and buying resin kits of the props and stuff. Go take a look at that, or don't, or whatever.
And where can they find that article, Joe?
That's on a website, http://www.hothtopicspodcast.com. And it should be on the front page. I think there'll be maybe 2 articles down, because it'll be our last episode.
This episode, our last episode,
and then finally that one.
Yeah.
Also, you should be able to click on the Imperial Propaganda link on the toolbar at the top, and that should be listed there once I remember to actually add it to the list of those articles.
We are going to be having more episodes coming up soon. Lots of stuff to talk about with all the new stuff that's going to be releasing in the next couple months. We'll try to get some more topics and photos and projects and articles and episodes out for you, the viewers, or listeners rather, because you're not viewing us right now. If you have a particular topic that you want us to cover going forward, please let us know. We are happy to. Thank you for joining us on Hoth Topics, a podcast about Star Wars. I've been Ian.
And I just want to remind you that alien languages feed to alien thoughts. Let's keep things basic. From all of us at Hoth Topics.
No.
All of us.
No.
Mostly Ian.
Just John.
Mostly Ian.
I don't support this.